tell us about your career and what you do for a living?
Sure, I'd like to tell you about my career. It's been multi-varied. I started out working as a nurse, and then in my mid-20s I went back to school for electrical engineering, and I was an engineer at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, which was fantastic, really exciting. And then after that I co-founded a company that commercialized the technology that we developed while we were at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory. So I was in business, I was an entrepreneur for many years. And then I retired for a little while, and then I'm now back in being an entrepreneur again. So the highlight really of my career was that I was on the team of people that invented the technology that allows your cell phone to take pictures. It's basically called camera on a chip technology. We invent something called CMOS, active pixel sensors. It was developed at JPL when I was there. I was on the team of inventors that developed it, and it was amazing technology because compared to the previous camera technology, which was already partially digital, I mean, in a sense, it was already electronic, let's say, as opposed to film. But what we brought to the table was the ability to have a much lower power image sensor, which was also very miniature. So it allowed what would have been several chips to all shrink down into one small chip. And so because of the miniaturization and the low power, that's what enabled it to go into a mobile phone, which of course can't use a lot of power.
So are the cameras in every mobile phone?
Yeah, the cameras are in every mobile phone, in every computer screen that has a camera, pretty much everywhere you see a digital camera, digital big cameras that you see in science, it's ubiquitous.
When you were younger, what did you want to be when you grew up?
You know, I didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up. I really didn't know. I was very lucky to be able to go back to school in my mid-20s, and at that point I knew that I wanted to go into science. I really loved science, but I didn't know that when I was young. I knew I liked math, but...
In high school, what clubs, activities, or sports did you participate in?
I really did not participate in any of those things. I was kind of I was kind of a rebel.
What were you a rebel about?
I just was very fiercely independent, and I did my own thing, and so, I mean, I did work a little bit, so I did do that.
Did you experience any put-downs in high school? Did you ever feel like other people stood in your way of success in high school or had limiting views of your potential?
As far as people limiting me in high school or putting me down, no, I guess I was lucky that did not happen, but I was kind of a loner, so I did feel a bit outside the group. I had a best friend that lived further away, and so I didn't really fit in.
What advice would you give to people who are in similar situations that you were in during high school?
Well, I think it's important to stay true to yourself if you can, and learn about yourself, and not worry too much about what other people think. And you know, I don't know. It's hard. It's hard, but you'll feel it's much easier as you get older. So it'll get better.
So kind of moving on later in life, how did you transition from being a registered nurse to an inventor and leading technology expert?
It was quite a crazy transition. So I actually didn't know. Well, what happened is, as a nurse, I was not that happy in terms of my profession. I guess I was naturally ambitious, which I really didn't realize how ambitious I was. So being a nurse wasn't quite enough for me. And I kind of topped out at my like so young, like there wasn't any more room for me to go. So I decided to go back to school, and I really didn't know. I just took a class, like a couple of classes to see, even like a math class, and then I took a chemistry class, and I did really well in them, much better than in high school when I wasn't that academic. So I did that, and then I applied to schools, and I went to school, and it was hard. I was working to pay for school, but I went. I got some help though from my parents a little bit, and then I still didn't know what I wanted to be. At that point I just knew I wanted to do science, and I had no idea what to do. But I just started taking physics and science, physics and math, and then I was very lucky to meet somebody who really was a mentor and said, "Why don't you look into engineering?" And I didn't even know what engineering was. But I went to the electrical engineering department and found out that it was actually fantastically aligned to my interests in physics and in math. And I switched into the engineering department, and I was just very, very lucky. And then things from there, once I had my bachelor's, a couple of professors in the department were interested in me, and I was able to continue on to get my PhD by working for one of the professors. Yeah.
That's cool. What obstacles did you face while pursuing your career as an inventor and technology entrepreneur?
The obstacles, I was pretty lucky. In that I didn't experience that much of a glass ceiling. As an inventor, even back in graduate school and at JPL as an inventor, the only obstacles were sometimes you would make a phone call to ask about some supplies, engineering supplies, and somebody would be like, treat you like a moron or something, like just because you were a girl. This is a long time ago. But that was very rare. And the people that worked at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, I did not have any attitude from. I felt like I was able to move up the ranks based on merit, and that was great. So I think that as a woman, there's certain built-in things that can be an obstacle, like maybe a little more self-doubt sometimes I think that boys or men are it's easier for them to have less of that, to be confident, even if they don't feel confident. So I think with women, there's sort of your own obstacles sometimes, but generally speaking, I was lucky. It was pretty supportive. And then as an entrepreneur, the obstacles were a little different. There are certain businesses that are more, I would say, a little backwards in terms of the way they view women, Wall Street in particular. So when you're going for financial things, they tend to stereotype CEOs as either, if you're a woman or even a minority. It's like if you're running a tech company, you should be Indian, or you should be, Asian or white. But if you're like Hispanic or, a woman, it's like falls out of their character. And so that's a little bit of an obstacle in financing, but again, you can avoid people that have those attitudes, so it's not really a big problem.
So how can you avoid those obstacles that you faced?
Well, I think that in business you get mostly, not all the time, but it's a very wise thing to choose who you do business with, like even sometimes who your customers are, or who your business partners are, or who your investors are. So it behooves you to find people that you respect and have good values, and that won't rip you off or won't look down on you, and so you can't always do that. Sometimes you have to deal with people you don't like, but that's one way but there's a lot of opportunity out there, and so I was able to find strategic investors, let's say, in this instance to invest in the company.
Was it always easy to keep pursuing your passion for technology in a male-dominated profession?
Yeah, it was. Like being on the technology or science side, it was absolutely no problems. I felt it, in that sphere, it really goes on merit, and people really care about like what you're contributing, and so there really wasn't, I felt like supported, and it was good.
And was there someone specific that helped you or believed in you along the way?
Yes, there was. So I had a professor at Columbia who believed me. It was the person that encouraged me to go on and get a PhD. So.
In contrast, was there someone who made it harder than it should have been?
I think. No, I don't think so. I think it was okay. It's hard. I mean, in graduate school, again, it's just hard work. You just have to keep going.
Are there any quote-unquote glass ceilings that you broke during your very successful career as an inventor, businesswoman, or technology specialist?
Yeah, I think so. I think that at JPL, unfortunately, when I was there were very few women scientists. I mean, we were respected. It wasn't that big a problem. That just the numbers were low. So in some sense, you're always breaking glass ceilings when you're doing something that people haven't done before. But there was I wasn't held back. You know, it wasn't like I had to really fight through or something. But you still feel like you're kind of a one of a kind. In business, I think as a women CEO, in a way, that was really breaking and continues to break glass ceilings. People that are CEOs, there's not that enough of us. It doesn't make sense. So there's more every day, but there's still different attitudes that people have, and you're still having to break new ground.
So what was your company called, and what exactly did it do?
So the company that I was co-founded was called Photobit, and we were the company that commercialized the CMOS image sensors that are in your phones that we developed at JPL. So we licensed the technology from where we invented it, even though we were the inventors, and then we commercialized that technology.
What did people initially think about a camera housed in a cell phone?
Well, they thought it was really silly. They could not figure out why anybody would want a camera in a cell phone. The only thing they could figure out were that girls in Japan would be taking a picture of, you know, when they went shopping and sending it to their friend to see what they thought. Like that was the limit of the imagination. They had no imagination. So so they had no idea. And now you have to understand, when I founded the company, when we first started developing the technology and getting it out there, it really was not yet in cell phones. So there were other applications, and then the cell phones came in a little bit later.
Did you get any pushback on that idea?
Yeah. So the pushback actually happened earlier in the development of the invention. So back when we were at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory and this new technology was taking over called CMOS active pixel sensor, and the scientists that were in the field of the previous technology, which is called CCD, or charge coupled devices, thought that the CMOS technology wouldn't work. So they thought it was ridiculous. They thought it was pushed back. So there was a lot of pushback in the scientific and engineering community of these ideas. And it was only by persevering and pushing on that we were able to establish that no, it actually really does work. And then, of course, everyone copied us. But yeah.
How is the transition from inventing and designing to becoming more prominent in the business world?
Well, for me, it was wonderful because I really excelled in the business world. It's actually has a lot of creativity in and of itself. You can come up with all kinds of different business opportunities that you work with other companies, and I really like the business aspect of it, so it came pretty natural to me.
So what would you tell your 16-year-old self if she was standing in front of you right now?
Oh my goodness. Well, I would say you're going to have a great life and don't worry. I think that, again, follow your passion if you can, or try to find it. It's hard to find. It is. It's okay if you don't have it. It will come. It will come. It will be okay. And let yourself take a meandering path. It's never too late to make a different change, and be good to yourself and the earth and each other.
What new technologies are you working on now?
So now I'm working on something called TAP, which is a wearable technology that you wear in one hand, and it allows you to tap your fingers on any surface. It turns any surface basically into a keyboard. So when you basically, different finger combinations represent letters or numbers, punctuation, and it will transmit wirelessly to any Bluetooth device, your phone, your laptop, your smart TV, whatever. And it's fantastic technology for mobile applications where we're losing screens. We don't have so many screens. We don't have a screen to text on, so now you can just text anywhere, text like this. And it's also especially good for visually impaired people that can't see screens, because it's completely tactile, and you always know where your fingers are. So it's really nice for situations where you can't see a screen. And so it's also very good for virtual reality and augmented reality as we go forward. Yeah, so the question was, do you have to know a new language? So one of the really innovative things that we've done is we've actually worked with a neuroscientist at Stanford to develop a learning system that's it's a game, and it's actually really fun to play, and it only takes about an hour and a half. Well, the younger you are, the shorter it takes, to learn the alphabet. Now, it takes a couple of weeks of actually doing it to get proficient and develop some muscle memory about it, but literally in an hour you have it memorized. It's like way easier than learning how to touch type, which is really hard. This is really easy, and it's a kind of a fun game. I can say more about it, but we have all these crazy little tunes to help you remember the letters and things like that. Being in Hollywood, it was funny. It was great too. We were able to get some really talented people to sing on it. So anyway, it's a good game. Yeah.
So how do you balance motherhood and working full time?
So balancing motherhood and working is really tricky, really hard, and the source of a tremendous amount of stress, to be honest. It's not easy. Our society doesn't help. But there was a few tricks that did help. One was that when the kids were little, they went to group care as opposed to having a nanny full time, and that meant that I or their dad had to pick them up at exactly 5:30, and we would have dinner together every night. So at least we had that evening time together, which I think was helpful. But it's what happened to me, and what happens to so many moms, is that you end up, there's no time for you. You end up with your kids, your work, your husband somewhere low on the list, and you never. So it's actually not that healthy. But you make the best of it. You do what you can, and if you can try to take some time off and have quality time with your kids, you do whatever you can. So in terms of feminism or helping women, I think that I'm certainly not an activist feminist in any way. I'm an environmentalist if I do anything. But I think that one of the wonderful things about being an employer is you get to affect at least a few people, you know, the people that work for you. So hopefully we had a very nice, we had good policies towards women. Of course, everyone, you know, there was no change in pay. Of course, everyone got paid the same and based on merit. And we did encourage, I mean, we did have some women engineers. Again, the pool is so small. It was still a majority of men that were working for us, but we, just in simply not discriminating, you're helping, you know, by just having, and then being a role model, I think, for other women. It was helpful being, even for a lot of the women that, the women that did work there, we gave them opportunities. A couple of the women went back to school and, you know, grew up with the company. Big proponent of education. And I do try to, I have done some mentoring over the years with companies and that have been, you know, women-led, but not that much. Yeah. So I've had a couple of awards. I had one award when I was back in undergraduate college, the Helena Rubinstein Outstanding Women in Science Award, which was actually a funded thing that helped offset some of the education costs, which was fantastic. And then later on, after being one of the co-inventors of this CMOS active pixel sensor, I was inducted into the NASA Hall of Fame and got an award from them.